Hey, this is Kevin. Let's talk about politics, specifically the consequences of the politics of VidCon. Now, I was just reading Twitter feeds today, and I came across this post by Jeff Holiday where he links to a video of Anita Sarkeesian and Sargon Akkad. He sums up the video as 5 minutes in, and this is the biggest pile of shit I've ever seen. Now, I have seen the video. But let's go ahead and just examine it together. What he's talking about.
Chances are, if you enjoy video games and the people online that speak about them, you've likely seen this logo. It's a big P, it's pretty, and it is a new service, relatively new, that is looking to you, the users, to give your hard-earned guacamole to help reinforce the messages that you're hearing. It's an interesting way to push this kind of gig economy that we have now and to show your support. It seems like a good idea, but events this week have shown that gamers are not old enough to play with big boy toys. They cannot be responsible for the type of people they enforce with their dollar. And our thesis this week is Patreon is responsible for the poisonous groups they represent. I'm Andy Burkowski. I'm joined, of course, by Mr. Zachary Fanny. Can you turn on your own mic, or do you need help?
I need help.
He needs help.
Oh,
okay.
there we go.
There you go, Broflake. And of course, Anton Mack is here.
Hey,
To provide some much needed color to the dialogue they're about to have.
Is that
to this
the-
week's dialogue wheel.
is
A
that
little
the
bit of
only
brown.
reason I'm here?
It's a big part, but it's
What? A big part of the reason why this gentleman was included was because he's black? Are you kidding me? So in other words, he's saying that this gentleman is his token?
it's not the only.
Okay.
So I want to talk about feminism. What? You guys are all the biggest feminists in the world, right?
Yes.
I'm a lesbian.
Oh, maybe start again on
Token
that one.
is a lesbian trapped in
Do you
a
guys use
man's
Patreon
body.
at all? Do you support anyone on Patreon?
No, but a lot of my friends do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I use it very exclusively.
For what?
You're exclusive in your...
I have my things I like.
Oh, okay.
It's hot Instagram models. I knew it.
Is that a Patreon thing?
Yeah. Like
What?
hot
You can
Insta.
pay-
How
you
hot?
can pay Patreon for Instagram?
So hot
What?
Instagram models, such as Sarah Underwood, will have Patreon specific for sending nudes to their fans, or special videos if you drop like $500,
Anton, you know
$600.
a lot about this.
I know.
So
'cause- reasons.
within the video game community, though, Patreon is used for a lot of different YouTubers that are kind of representing the alternative media. They're not associated with a lot of the mainstream sites. They're basically doing what we're doing here, but have a lot more people watching, and usually are more about entertainment. You know, they're more about getting some lulls, getting some gigs. But a few of them have found, and I think that number is rising, a big audience by saying things that are hateful, poisonous, and just generally not nice things to say. One of those gentlemen, Zach, how would you describe him?
Is this the Sargon of Akkad?
Yes, here's a little intro about if you want to know about Sargon of Akkad from our main guy, H Bomber guy, that describes him.
When he's not lecturing the left about how their awful behavior is turning people away from their ideas and they have the wrong priorities.
It makes the left look demented. This
That's
is the
Mr.
reaction of a
Akkad.
group of people who have lost all sense of
The
perspective.
Sargon?
Or having long-winded discussions about how the Magic the Gathering feminists have ruined the card game because he hasn't seen as many tits recently. He's busy openly
pretty
tweeting gay porn at people, the latest in a long line of
He
what I
sends gay
believe he
porn at
calls a
people, too.
convincing argument.
Yeah, so he is a gentleman that has, I think, at last check, 6.
So let me get this straight. Their introduction to Sargon is a stream of ad hominem. Are you kidding me? That in itself should. I mean, we're only like a minute 38 into this, so or 3 minutes and 38 seconds into this, and they're already proving Jeff Holiday correct.
600,000 followers and gets how much money a month there, Anton?
$5,000.
5 G's.
Sounds a little
The good old
jealous to me.
Patreon.
Yeah, the Patreon service that you basically give money on a tier, and each month you give a couple of bucks. And he's devoted a lot of his attention to criticizing feminism in video games, specifically.
Okay, let's take a look at that. He's making the charge that Carl spends a lot of time, or let me use his online name, Sargon of Akkad, abuses women predominantly. But let's go take a look at Carl's feed here. I've sorted it chronologically, newest to oldest. So we're seeing his newest posts. VidCon was just past week, 2 weeks ago. So we have 3 here that had to deal with that. But the other 3 on this first line don't have anything to do with Anita Sarkeesian. Next line, nothing about Anita Sarkeesian. Next line, nothing about Anita Sarkeesian. This, nothing about Anita Sarkeesian. Here, we've got one that tangentially relates to her, but not specifically about her. The other videos on that particular line have nothing to do with her. 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 Nothing, 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 nothing. I went back 5 months, and I can go back further. And I think we have one that's about 6 months old that might have something to do with her. Where is it? There we go, right here. 7 months old. Let's go back a little bit further. Nothing about Anita. Nothing about Anita. Nothing, 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 nothing. See here. Oh, we've got this one about feminists for autism. They were making fun of the autistic screaming, but it wasn't about Anita specifically. But as you notice, that a lot of these have nothing to do with Anita. We do have some about Lacey Green, which is ironic considering that Lacey Green and Carl have mended fences, actually talk to each other. So the idea that most of his videos are some type of hit piece on feminists is a bit slanderous, really. Let's continue on.
The matron of all of this, Miss Anita Sarkeesian, and this weekend at VidCon, things kind of went to a bit of a head, so to speak. Anton, please, it's story time with Anton. There's a Polygon article that really goes over this.
And incidentally, the Polygon article is a load of bullshit. It is a one-sided account of what happened.
What has happened over the week?
All right, once upon a time.
Here we go.
All right, so this all starts off at VidCon. Anita Sarkeesian actually had a a panel. What was the panel specifically?
Highly controversial panel.
Hold on a
that was
second. Okay. This is not the panel they're talking about. This is a second panel that happened a few days later that involved cyberbullying. I wanted to freeze this on this particular point specifically so that we could talk about this gentleman right here. He is Boogie 2988. He had his own run-in with Anita Sarkeesian approximately 2 days after this event. Let's hear what he has to say.
And unfortunately, on the first day of VidCon, something happened that made my anxiety go almost completely out of control. During Anita's first panel called Women on Gaming, that panel went very, very wrong, with some people attacking them during the Q&A section. And even during that panel, some people who were sitting right near the front are people she considers to be detractors of hers. And she became so nervous and felt so attacked that she actually called one of those detractors names right to their face. I'm sure you've heard about this controversy. And because of that, I began to be very afraid that if she disagreed with me, she might do the same during our panel, making me feel very uncomfortable and making the audience feel very uncomfortable. And that's definitely not something I could handle. And my anxiety got so bad that really up to about an hour before the panel, I had every intention of canceling on them, but I really don't like upsetting the VidCon team. And I didn't want to have to try to explain all of that to them, the reason I was canceling, but why I would be doing everything else I did that day. And I also thought that could be perceived as an attack. And I just wanted to do the panel, and I just wanted to hope for the best and hope that everything worked out. My anxiety got the best of me, and just about every YouTuber I know, and even some of my fans, and even a fellow panelist that I got to spend some time with, and even the moderator for the panel, I ran by all of my talking points and asked, do you think this is something that would be offensive? Do you think this is something that would upset Anita or anybody else in the audience? I wanted to make sure to get this right, and I practiced, and I practiced, and I practiced, and I practiced, and I practiced. When I got to the green room for the panel, Anita was there, and I finally worked up the courage to introduce myself and let her know that I do like her Feminist Frequency series, that I find it challenging, and I like to have my misconceptions challenged, and that while I didn't always agree with her, I appreciated her making it, and tried to let her know that she was safe around me and everything was going to be fine. I tried to be friendly, and she was fairly friendly back, though very reserved, which is understandable because she was having a pretty shit weekend. And I personally think the panel went very well. I got to make all of the major points that I wanted to make. I felt like every other panelist did too. I was very careful not to bogart the time. I was trying to be very careful to not interrupt anybody else, though I would offer a follow-up once they were done speaking. I made some of my major points, which was telling the stories of the things that I've endured, how I've learned to deal with it, about how other YouTubers I've spoken to have endured it as well, and how they choose to deal with it, and the tools that are available there for you. And I think Anita got to make most of her points as well throughout most of the panel. I think everybody got a chance to speak and say how they felt and what they thought was best. I think the only thing that could closely represent an attack on Anita is when she said that she hoped that everybody left the panel angry and bitter and ready to fight. I countered by saying that I personally don't feel those things, and I personally don't choose to do that. And I try to foster a community that's not angry and doesn't fight. I try to foster a community that celebrates beautiful things instead. But I looked directly at her as I said it when I was done, and she seemed comfortable and fine with that answer. Before you knew it, the panel was over, and the moderator said we had about 5 minutes if anybody had any closing statements. So I made a closing statement that it took about a minute to say, and I said that I wanted to remind everybody in the audience that I am a person of privilege as a white cis male, and then I went over the types of attacks that have happened to me again with the assassins and the boxes of feces and all of that kind of stuff, and then just try to remind the audience that if whoever you are, if it can happen to me, it can happen to you, and then try to remind everybody that this isn't a matter of identity politics. This is a human rights issue, that I think these types of attacks are human rights violations, and that we should all consider that so that we can be unified against them. A couple of more panelists had their closing arguments, and then we left the stage, and I'm shaking, very, very nervous, but I felt like it went well. And when I get off of the stage at the bottom of the panels, there's Anita, and she seemed to be very, very upset. And I don't remember exactly what she said. I'm paraphrasing here, but she said in a very upset that I think it was very fucking uncool that you said what you said there at the end, knowing that no one else would have enough time to respond. And I bet you can imagine how that affected my anxiety, because the exact focal point of my anxiety for the entire weekend, in fact, for the last 6 weeks, the nightmare scenario that I was terrified of actually had come true. I had upset somebody who I very, very much had tried to not upset and did not want to upset. And that's the event that...
And he later goes on to say that he thinks that he was able to settle things with her amicably, and that's great. But the point is that she came at him in a harassing manner because of things that he said that were not controversial, that weren't in any way threatening, but she considered it a threat. But let's go ahead and continue on now.
Called Lives of Women Online in the Harassment They Face.
Oh, all right.
So it's a harassment panel.
It's a harassment panel. And Mr. Carly B.
We'll call him Sargon.
Sargon. Oh, yeah, Sargon of whatever the hell. He ended up forming a little group of his friends, some of them YouTubers. I'm assuming some of them were fans. They showed up to her panel.
The group of friends, real quick. Let's take a look. I went ahead and here they are. Here's this group that they're talking about. Okay, now let's continue on.
Early, so they could take up the first 3 rows.
Hold on.
So they're indistinguishable at this point from like real hardcore fans. That's
No, because they know they are indistinguishable because they're fat, pudgy, and have hair in places
we
that
don't know
people don't
that.
know.
We don't know that.
We don't know for certain.
It's quite ironic that this guy is insulting them as being fat, pudgy, and hair in places, or he didn't finish that, but he's fat, pudgy, and has a beard. Come on. The guy's, he's already defaming them, and they're basically already slandering them with their comments.
But no, it is.
They could just
It
as
is.
easily be skinny, holding like Cheeto finger dust. like,
sexless dilettantes,
They don't look like you, Anton. I promise you. They're
Let's go back to that picture. Right there's Bunty. He's Indian. There's some black guy, and he's black. He's black. There's a part of Chris Reagan's face. Chris Reagan is Puerto Rican. There's Carl Benjamin. He's British. I do believe that guy's British too. I'm not really certain. That guy's from Massachusetts. That's vernaculus. I'm not really sure who this guy is. Armored Skeptic, I believe. And I don't remember who she is, but I've seen some of her videos. I follow these guys and listen to a lot of what they say because they have some very good points about some of the criticisms of video games. So let's go ahead and continue on.
there wasn't a single face like yours. I guarantee it right now.
You don't know that.
I do know that. I do know that.
Song of the God was actually Mesopotamian.
Yeah.
It was white. Oh.
No, 100%.
All right, bring it
So
back,
hold
bring it
on.
back.
They went to harass a woman.
Yeah, so they
At
took
the lives of women online and harassment they face.
they took the
I know how I'll
first
protest this. I'll harass the woman on
they
it.
took the first three rows, chilled out.
Now, that's another thing I need to address as well. That is a blatant lie. They didn't take the first three rows. They took a section that would accommodate a group that big. And in fact, there is where is that? Was it on? Yeah, it was here. Let's hear what some black guy has to say about this whole thing.
So Anita Sarkeesian was a part of a panel that was called Women Online at VidCon 2017, and that's where everything happened. Basically, a lot of people that criticized Anita Sarkeesian for, spreading a lot of bullshit lies and a lot of misinformation showed up there to listen to and see what she had to say. And that's when things got weird for her, and she started talking shit to Sargon, calling him a shithead and a garbage human.
If you Google my name on YouTube, you get shitheads like this dude who are making these dumbass videos that just say the same shit over and over again. It's like, I hate to give you attention because you're a garbage human. Whatever, dude. But it's, like the fact that these dudes are making endless videos that just go after every feminist.
And in fact, here, let's back up just a little bit here. Now you see how they're completely stage left. And right over here, you see the section that's right in front of the stage. So no, they didn't take up the first three rows. They just sat in a wing of seating and sat in those seats. That's all they did. And they were sitting there politely listening.
Like the fact that these dudes are making endless videos that just go after every feminist over and over and over again, I think is a part of the issue of why we have to have these conversations.
Now, I personally wasn't at that panel because I was actually sleeping. I needed to catch up on some sleep, and I regret that so much because of how big this has blown up. Because I would have liked to have personally tell you guys how I felt and how it exactly went down. But you guys can see the footage. There's plenty of footage to suggest that they were just sitting there. It was very harmless, just watching somebody speak, and we did the same thing at other panels. We sat there and we watched and listened, and a lot of the stuff that was said wasn't even that bad, but Anita Sarkeesian just couldn't handle that shit. Just the fact of us being there in the same vicinity is now considered harassment. And she wrote about it on Feminist Frequency, on VidCon harassment and garbage humans. To kick off the Women Online panel at VidCon last Thursday, the moderator posed the question, why do we still have to talk about the harassment of women? I replied, because I think one of my biggest harassers is sitting in the front row. He showed up with several others. Together, his group took up the two front rows at the panel. Their presence was plainly not, as one of them later said in an apology video, apology in quotations, he posted on Twitter, to give us a chance we never gave them, and to hear us out. But instead, to intimidate me and to put me on edge. They will no doubt plead innocent and act shocked at what they characterize as an outrageousness at such allegations. This too is the part of their strategy, gaslighting, acting in a way intended to encourage me and their targets to doubt themselves or to wonder if all of this isn't just in our heads. But to anyone who examines their patterns of behavior with clear eyes, the intentions of their actions are undeniably apparent. And she includes the picture too. Look at, they're just sitting there. Oh man, look at Sargon, dude, fucking menacing. Oh man, look at that. Look at that menacing fucking face. And fucking Andy Worsey look like he's about to fall asleep, and Chris is already fucking sleeping with his goddamn glasses on. See, that right there, she's already making up bullshit, and she knows that a lot of people are going to believe her, and they're trying to say, oh, they were trying to actually do this, when it's like, no, dude, I talked to the people. I was supposed to be there, but I said, like I already said before, I fell asleep, and I didn't get up in time. And it was just, let's go, we have to listen. This is going to be great. There was no, like, oh, we're going to sit there menacingly and disrupt her and make her sweat and stuff. There was none of the talk like that whatsoever. This is just her just fucking conjuring up bullshit and just try to create more drama. Look, we can debate.
Okay. So we got that. Let's continue
And
on.
when the panel started, they basically harassed and to a certain extent was a form of like threats.
Think of their lives. Like when they're sitting there with their friends going through this kind of
Oh, yeah, I
plan,
can't wait.
What are they
I can't
talking
wait.
about? Yeah, like what are who
Oh,
are
I
these
can't
people?
wait.
Yeah, like, did you see her most recent video where she claimed Mario was sexist?
Okay, we are 5 minutes, 55 seconds into this video. Jeff Holiday is absolutely correct. 5 minutes in, and this is the biggest pile of shit I have ever seen. My advice to you folks in the skeptic community is lawyer up. This is defamation. It's defamation. It's slander specifically. Oral defamation in which someone tells one or more persons an untruth about another, which untruth will harm the reputation of the person defamed. It is a civil wrong. It is a basis for a lawsuit. All of these YouTubers, because of this type of harassment from feminists, have actually seen reductions in their income. They've been attacked. They've been defamed. In my opinion, they need to lawyer up. That's where we're going to leave it at that. Boys, get a lawyer. Get a lawyer. Seriously, get a lawyer. All right, that's going to be it. If anybody has any suggestions for a video for me, I'm sorry, I just started really doing this in the past 6 months, and I'm still learning techniques and learning how to do this and do it in a semi-professional manner that looks good, sounds good, but I am not going to crank out videos like anybody else because I don't have the time. But thanks for listening. If you did, take it easy.